Title 7 of the National Oil Heat Research Alliance of the Act of the 2000. The short title of the title may be acted. The site is National Oil Heat Research Alliance Act of the 2000. Section 702 of the findings Congress found with the oil heat with the important commodity rely with approximately 30 million 30 million Americans efficient economical energy source, commercial, residential space with hot water heating. Oil heating equipment operate with efficiency among the highest of the space heating energy source with reducing fuel cost with making oil heat economical, meaning the space heating with the production, distribution, marketing, oil heat equipment plays a significant role with the economy of the United States, with the accounting with approximately $12.9 billion expenditure for the annually with employing millions of Americans in all aspects of the oil heat industry. For the only very limited federal resources that have been made available to all oil heat research, development, and safety training with the educational efforts for the detriment of both the oil heat industry and 30 million consumers. The Cooperative Development, Self-Finance, Implementation Coordinated with the National Oil Heat Industry Program, received the development and training with the consumer, educated with the necessary important with the welfare of the oil heat industry, general economy of the United States, with the millions of Americans that rely on the oil heat in commercial, residential space, and hot water heating. Section 107 of the definitions of alliance, the term alliance being with the National Oil Heat Research Alliance established under Section 704. Consumers education. The term consumer education means the provision of the information assist for the consumers of the person making the evaluation of the decision regarding the oil, heat, and other non-industrial, commercial, residential spacing, or hot water heating fuels. Exchange of the term exchange with the means of the agreement that A, with the entity of the part with the customer is to receive the oil heat with the other party. B, with required with only insubstantial portion of the volume involved with exchange to be sold in cash or property other than oil heat. 4. Industrial Trade Association. The term Industrial Trade Association means organization described in paragraph 3 and 6 with the section 501C, Internal Revenue Code of 1986 with exemption of the taxation under section 501A of the code is organized purpose for the representing the oil heat industry. 5. Number 1 distillate. With the term number 1 distillate means the oil classified number 1 distillate with the American Society Testing Materials. Number 2 dyed distillate. With the term number 2 dyed distillate means the fuel oil classified with number 2 distillate by the American Society Testing Materials indeedable with the dyed according to the regulation prescribed in Secretary of the Treasury under Section 4082A2 Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Section 7 oil heat. With the term oil heat means the number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate with the use of the non-industrial, commercial, residential space, hot water heating, oil heat industry in general. The oil heat industry means the person of the production of the transportation sale of the oil heat. 2. The person engaged with the manufacture of the distribution of oil heat utilization equipment. B. The excluded term oil heat industry does not include the ultimate consumer of the oil heat. 9. Public member of the public means of the member of the alliance described in section 705C15. Qualified industry organization. Term qualified industry organization means the National Association of Oil Heat Research Education and Successor Organization. 11. Qualified state association. Term qualified state association means the industrial trade association of the organization. Qualified industry. The organization of the alliance determines the representative retail market of the sales of the state retail market. With the term retail market means the person engaged primarily with the sale of the oil heat ultimate consumer. Secretary. With the term secretary means the Secretary of Energy. 14. Wholesale distributor. With the term wholesale distributor means the person that A1 produce the number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate. 2. Imports number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate, or 3. Transport number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate across the state boundaries among local marketing areas, and B. Sell the distill another person who does not produce the import, transport number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate across state boundaries among local marketing areas. 15. State of the state means within several states except for the state of Alaska. Section 704 referendum creation of the program in general. The oil history throughout the qualifying industry organization may conduct its own experiment with the referendum among the retail market, the wholesale distribution established from the National Oil Heat Research Alliance. National Heat Research Alliance. 2. Reimbursement of the cost. Alliance is established showing reimburse for the qualified industry organization for the cost of the accounting and the documentation for the referendum. The conduct of the referendum under paragraph 1 shall be conducted with an independent auditing firm. 4. Voting rights. The retail market. Voting rights of the retail market of the referendum under paragraph 1 shall be based on the volume of oil heat that's sold within the state with each of the retail market for the calendar year previous to the year within which the referendum is conducted with another representation in the period. Wholesale distributor voting rights for the wholesale of the distributed referendum. Paragraph 1 shall be based on the volume number 1 distillate and number 2 dyed distillate sold in the state by each which of the wholesale of the distributor in the calendar year previous to the year with which of the referendum is conducted with another representative of the period weighted by the ratio of the total total volume of the number one distillate. Number two, dyed distillate sold in the non-industrial, commercial, residential space, hot water heating in the state of the volume of the number one distillate. Number two, dyed distillate in the state of the establishment approval of 2/3. In general subsection, subparagraph D, for the approval of the person representing the 2/3 of the total volume of the oil heated voted with the retail market class life, the 2/3 of the total weighted volume of the number one distillate, the number two dyed distillate for the wholesale distributor reliance. It will be the established shall be in a authorized to levy the assignment under Section 707. Requirements of the majority of the retail market except for the providing subsection B with the oil heat with the industry state with it shall not participate with the alliance unless than 50% of the retail market vote within the state approved with the establishment with the alliance. 6. Certification of volume to each of the person voting in the referendum shall certify with the independent auditing firm volume oil heating number one distillate, number two dyed distillate representing the vote of the persons of the notification no later than 90 days after the date of the enactment of the title of qualified state association notified of the qualified industry organization writing with the referendum under paragraph 1 will not conduct within the state of the B subsection subsequent state participation oil heat industry state that has not participated initially with the alliance subsequently elected to participate by conducting a referendum under subsection A. C. Termination or suspension of the generally only on initiative of the alliance of the non-partition of the alliance with the by retail market with the wholesale with the distributor representing 25% of the volume of the oil heat or weighted number one distillate, number two dyed distillate in each of the class of the alliance shall in its own experiment with the referendum to be conducted with an independent auditing firm selected by the alliance determine whether the oil heat industry favor the determination of the suspension of the alliance. 2. Volume of the percentage required to terminate and suspension for the terminated suspension not to take effect unless the termination suspension is approved by the person representing more than one half of the total volume of oil heated volume voted in retail market class, no more than one half of the total volume weighted in number one distillate, number two dyed distillate voted with the wholesale distributor. Case 3. Termination by state of the state may elect for the terminate participant in notifying alliance with that 50% of the oil heat volume of the state has voted in referendum with the withdrawal. And D. The calculation of oil heat sales for purpose of this section 705 of the volume of oil heat sold annually of the state will be determined with the basis of information provided by the Energy Information Administration with respect to the calendar year with the other representation period. Section 705, membership in general, the expected to provide in subsection C1C with the qualified industry organization shall select member of the alliance representing the oil heat industry state with the list with the nominee for the subordinate for the qualified state association of the state. 2 vacancies. The vacancy within the alliance should be filled with the same manner of the original selection. B. The representation selection members of the alliance qualified industry organization shall make the best effort to select the members of the representative of the oil heat industry, including representation interstate with the intrastate operators among retail market, the wholesale distributed number one distillate, number two distillate, 3 of the large small companies among wholesale distributed retail marketers, 4 the diverse geographical regions of the country. See the number of members and general membership of the alliance shall be as 12 with one member representing each state with the oil heat sales exceeding 32 million gallons per year. Fewer than 24 state with the representative of the subparagraph of the one member that represents each of the state with the highest volume of the annual oil heat sale with the necessary to cover the total the number of state with the representative of the unparagraph of the A subparagraph equal to 24 with the 5 representative of the retail market each of the select with the qualified state with the association and 5 state with the highest volume of the annual oil heat sales. 5 additional representative of the retail market with the each 21 representative of the wholesale distribution. 6 of the public member of the which shall have the representative significant user oil heat oil research community state energy official for the other groups of knowledge for the about oil heat full-time owners and employees other than that of the public member of the alliance member to show for the full-time owner of the employer the members of the oil heat industry except for the members described in paragraph subparagraph C, D, and E of the paragraph 1 must apply with the qualified industry organization and industry trade association. The compensation alliance marketers shall receive no compensation for their service, nor shall alliance members be reimbursed for the expense relating to their service except for the public member of the request for the reimbursed for the reasonable expenses directly related to participating meeting of the alliance. Terms in general for the subject of the paragraph 4 for the member of the alliance shall serve the term in 3 years except that the member following unexpired term may serve with a total of 7 consecutive years. Term limited member may serve with no more than 22 consecutive full terms. 3 former member, the former member of the alliance member, the term of the alliance member that has not been for a period of 2 years. Initial appointments for the initial appointments to be the alliance shall be in the terms 1, 2, and 3 years, determined with a qualified industry organization staggered to provide the subsequent selection 1/3 of the members each of the year. Section 106 function general of the program project with the contractors of the agreement of the alliance shall develop the program project to enter into the contracts the other agreements with the other person at needs of the implementing title with including program in the hand of the consumer employee safety training. 2. 2, for the production of the research development to demonstrate for the cleaning and the efficient of the oil heat utilization equipment. 3, for the consumer and educate with the may provide with the payment of the cost carrying the subparagraph of the A with the assessment collected on subsection section was 707. Coordination alliance shall coordinate with the activities of the industry, the trade associates, and other person appropriately to provide with efficient delivery of the service to avoid unnecessary duplication activities. 3. Activities exclusion. Activities are in class 1, 2, in paragraph 1A shall not include advertising, promotion, consumer survey with the supporting advertising for the promotion. B. Research, development, and demonstration activities in general with the research, development, and demonstration activities on paragraph 1A. 2. Shall include all activities incidental with the research, development, and demonstration, cleaning and efficiency, oil heating utilization equipment. 2. Obtaining patent, including payment of the attorney fee to making perfection of a patent application. 2. Excluded activities. Research, development, and demonstration activities on paragraph 1A2 which will not include research, development, and demonstration of the oil heat utilization equipment with respect to which the typically technically feasible and commercially feasible operations that have been verified except with the funds to provide with improvements of the existing equipment with the technically feasibility with the commercial feasibility of the operation of those improvements have been verified. B. The priority for the development of the program project of the Alliance shall be given the priority to issuing the reporting to the research, development, demonstration, safety, consumer education, and training. Administrative officer for the committee's bylaw of the Alliance shall select among the members of the chairperson and the other officers necessary for the man shall be the authorized committee of the subcommittee of the Alliance to take specific action. The Alliance is authorized to take with the shall adopt and bylaw of the president for the implementation of this title. To solicit oil heat industry comment with the recommendation. Alliance shall establish procedure the solicitation of oil heat industry comment with the recommendation on any of the significant contracts over the agreements and programs and projects to be funded by the Alliance. 3. Advisory committee for the Alliance may establish advisory committee for the consisting of the person with the Alliance with the members. 4. With the voting, each member of the Alliance shall have one vote in matter before Alliance with the C. The administrative expense with the general, the administrative expense with the operating Alliance with the not include with the costs incurred in the collection and assessment under section 707 plus the amounts paid for the paragraph 2 but not exceeding 70% of the amount of the assessment collected for any of the calendar year except during official year of the operation of the Alliance with the expense of the amounts shall not exceed 20% of the amount of the assessment. 2. Reimbursement of the Secretary in General of the Alliance shall annually reimburse the Secretary for the costs incurred with the federal government relating to the Alliance. Limitation reimbursement on paragraph 8 of the calendar year shall not exceed the amount the Secretary determines as twice the average annual salary of the one employee with the Department of Energy. 2. The budget publication of proposed budget for August 1st each of the year of the Alliance shall publish the public review of the comment of the proposed budget for the next calendar year would include the probable costs of the program, project, contracts, and other agreements. 2. Submission of the Secretary and the Congress after the review of the comment paragraph 1 of the Alliance shall submit the proposed budget for the Secretary of Commerce. 3. Recommendation by the Secretary of the Secretary may recommend the inclusion in the budget program the activity Secretary consider appropriate for the implementation of the Alliance shall not implement with the proposed budget for the expiration of dates after submitting proposed budget to the Secretary. 7. The audit record records and audits records and alliances should be kept. The records clearly reflect all of the acts of the transaction with the Alliance. And B. Make the records available to the public. 2. The audits in general the record Alliance will include with the assessment report of the applicant for the refunds under section 707 of the B4 shall be audited with a certified public account at least once each year with the advertised for the time of the Alliance may designate. For the availability of audit reports, copies of each of the audit reports shall be provided with the Secretary, member of the Alliance, qualified industry organization on the request of the other members of the oil heating policy industry. C. Policies and procedures. Generally, the Alliance shall be decided with the policy perceived with the auditing compliance and with its title. 2. Conformity within the gap. Policy for the procedure established in the clause 1 shall conform with the generally accepted accounting principles. G. The public after the Alliance proceeding is the public known for the Alliance shall be given 30 days public known for each of the meeting of the Alliance. 2. The meetings open to the public. Each meeting of the Alliance shall be open to the public. 3. Minutes of each of the meeting by Alliance shall be made available to be readily accessible to the public. H. Annual report each year of the Alliance has to prepare with the public possibility publicly available to report that 1. Include the description of all program projects with contract agreements undertaken with the Alliance during the previous year of those playing with the current year of the 2. The detail of the allocation line with the resource each for the staff of the project program and project. 707 assessment rate. The assessment rate shall be equal to 0.2% per gallon of the number 1 distillate and number 2 dyed distillate collection rule. With the collection at this point of the establishment shall be collected with the point of sale of the number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate, the wholesale of the distributor and person other than those wholesale of the distributors include the sale made with the pursuant of the exchange. 2. Responsibility payment of the wholesale. The distributor shall the responsible payment of the assessment of the line for the quarterly basis that shall provide the line certification with the volume so full sold. Fuel sold, no ownership of the inch of the person with the ownership of the inch of the number 1 distillate. The number 2 dyed distillate should be done reasonably shall not be responsible for payment of the assessment under the Section 4. Failure to receive payment, the refund of the wholesale distributor does not receive the payment. The purchase number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate within year 1 year of the day of sale, then may apply for a refund aligned with the assessment paid. B, the amount of the amount refund shall not exceed the amount of the assessment level of the number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate for which the payment was not received. 5, important after point of sale of the number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate imported after the point of the sale. A shall be responsible for the payment and assessment of the alliance at the point at which the produced product into the United States. B shall provide the alliance certification with the volume fuel imported. Late payment charge of the alliance may be established. Late payment charge of the rate of the interest that will be imposed on any person who failed to remit with the pay of the alliance any with the amount due under the title. 7. The alternative collection rule of the alliance may establish and approve of the request of the oil heat industry with a save of the alternative the means of the collecting the assessment and other means to determine more efficient, more effective the sale than use of the other than oil heat number 1 distillate, number 2 dyed distillate sold for the other than the oil heat air to exclude for the assessment. D. Investment funds employed pending the distribution under the program project of the contract. The other agreements of the alliance may invest the funds collected through the assessment any other funds received by the alliance. 1. Obligate for the United States, any agency of the United States in general, obligation any state, any political subdivision of the state. 3. Interest-bearing account certifying when the deposit of the bank and a member of the Federal Reserve System. 4. Obligation fully guaranteed to a principal of the interest of the United States. E. The state and local regional programs coordinated with the alliance shall establish the program coordinate with the operational alliance with the operator. Any similar state, local, and regional program created under state law, including regulations similar at need. 2. Funds made available to qualified state association general. Base amount alliance shall make the available to qualified state association if the state shall amount equal to 15% of the amount of assessment of the collected in the state. 2. The additional amount of the general of the qualified state association may request that the alliance provided the the association portion of the remaining 85% of the amount of the assessment collected with the state. 2. The requirements of request under the clause of the AA specify the amount of the funds. The B request detail the specific use for which requested funds are sought. CC include the commitment of the comply with the title of the use of the requested funds. DD to be made publicly available. 3. The direct benefit of the alliance shall not provide any funds to respond with the request under the clause of the alliance determines if the funds will be used to directly benefit the oil heating industry. 4. Monitoring terms and conditions reporting requirements of the alliance shall AA. Monitor the using of funds provided within this clause. BB. The input of the weather terms of the condition reporting requirements of the alliance for the consider the necessary to ensure the compliance with this title. Section 708, Market Survey and Consumer Protection, and the price of the beginning 2 years after the sale shall align with the annual. Therefore, the Secretary of the Commerce will only data provided with the Energy Information Ministry for the other public source of the shall provide with the public shall make it available to Congress aligns with the Secretary of Energy for the public analysis for the change of the price of the oil heat relative to the other energy source of the oil heat price of the analysis compared to the next change of the price consumer grade oil heat with the compensate with the index change of the price of the residential electricity with the residential natural gas propane on an annual natural average basis for the purpose of the index change for the oil heat residential electricity the residential natural gas and propane per the Secretary of the Commerce shall use the 5-year rolling average price for beginning with the 4 years prior to the establishment of the alliance. Authority restricts activities any year with a 5-year average price for the composite index for consumer grade oil heat exceeds 5-year rolling average price for the composite index of residential electricity, residential natural gas, propane in the amount greater than 10.1% of the activities of the alliance shall be restricted with the research, the development, training, and safety material of the alliance shall inform the Secretary of the Energy of the Congress any restriction activities under subsection. Upon expiration of 180 days after the beginning of any of the restriction activities, the Secretary of Commerce shall again conduct the oil heat price analysis described in subsection A. Activities of the alliance shall continue with the restriction under the subsection until the price index excess of 9.1% or less. 709 Compliance. In general, the alliance may bring civil action to the United States District Court to compel payment of the assessment under section 707. B. The cause of successful action compliance under the section may also require payment of the defendant of the costs incurred by the alliance to bring in this action. Section 710, Lobbying Restriction. No fund derived of the assessment under section 707 of the collective of the alliance shall be used to influence legislation or election, except the alliance may also use the fund with the formulae subject to the Secretary recommendation amendments to the title of the other laws with further proposed the title. Section 711, the disclosure of any consumer education activities undertaken with the funds provided with the alliance shall include the statement that activities were supported in whole and part by the alliance. 712 violation. Prohibition shall be unlawful to any of the person conduct with the consumer education activity undertake with the funds derived from the assessment collected with the alliance under section 707, include the reference private the brand name, 2, the possible unwarranted the claim of the behalf of the oil heat related products, 3, reference with respect to the attributed to use of the competing product, B, complaint with the general public utility aggrieved with the violation described in the subsection A, that may file with the complaint with the alliance, 2, transmit a qualified state association complaint with the shall be transmitted concurrently with it to be any of the qualified state association undertaken consumer the education activity with respect to which the complaint is made. 3. Solicitation of the activities on receipt of the complaint under subsection of the alliance. Any of the qualified state association undertaking the consumer education activity with respect to which complaint is made shall see for the consumer education activity until the complaint is withdrawn with the B. But the court determines if the conduct of the activity complaint does not constitute the violation of subsection A. Resolution by parties in general no later than 10 days after the complaint, the file with the transmitted under subsection B of the complying with the alliance qualified state association undertake with the consumer education activity with respect to the time to the complaint is made. The trouble made attempt to resolve the complaint, withdrawal of the complaint of the issue of the distributed resolve of the discussion complying part shall withdraw of the complaint be the judicial review. In general, the public utility filed with a complaint under the section aligned with the qualified state of the association undertaken with the consumer education with respect to which complaint with the under section is made with any of the person agreed with the violation section. Subsection A may seek appropriate relief of the United States of the District Court. The relief of the public utility filed with a complaint under the section which will be entitled with the temporary with the injunctive the relief enjoying with the consumer education activity with respect with the complaint under the section is made until the complaint is withdrawn with the court of the determined with the consumer education activity contained. Complaint does not constitute a violation of subsection A. E. The attorney fee of the meritorious cases in case of the federal court in which the court grants public utility injunction relief of the subsection D. The public utility shall be entitled to recover and attorney's fee of the line with a qualified state association undertaken with the consumer education activity with respect with the which the complaint which a complaint under the section made non-meritorious case of the under subsection D with which the court determined the complaint under subsection B with the frivolous and without merit the prevailing party shall be entitled to recover any attorney fees. As saving clause not within the section shall limit the cause of the action brought under any of the other laws. 713 sunset of the title shall see with the effective of the honors of the date that is 4 years after the date of which the alliance is established. Approved number November 9, 2000. And that, my friend, was the Short Titled Energy Act of 2000.